Good morning, Year 5. Today is Thursday and we are moving on with our reading comprehension lessons. Before I go on to discuss what we are going to be focusing on across the next 3 lessons, I just want to do a quick shout out to Jacob from 5P. Now, we've seen all sorts of examples of creativity, but what really impresses me about what Jacob has produced is the resilience that he must have shown to keep working hard in order to produce this. So have a look at the photo. Jacob has spent a couple of days solid working on a Lego model of the International Space Station. And for all the Lego fans in Year 5, I hope you'll agree with me when you realise actually it's a pretty fantastic model and a superb achievement. So big shout out to Jacob. And again, also please, to other members of Year 5, please keep sending in your home learning and your different creative examples as well, because they are truly wonderful to see. Okay, so thank you and well done again to Jacob. Now we are going to be talking about facts and opinions, a Year 5 reading comprehension objective in further detail in a moment, and then at the end of the video we'll be moving on to the next chapter of Cosmic. If you remember yesterday I said it's called I Nearly Shaved Myself to Death, so we'll get to that shortly. Okay, so our objective today and across the next couple of lessons after today is to distinguish between statements of fact and opinion. If we're evaluating a text, being able to pull out what we know to be a reliable fact and what might just be someone's opinion, however persuasive it may be, is a very important comprehension skill. And distinguish means to be able to tell the difference between the two in this example. So to get started this morning, I've got this pretty cool looking image, if I do say so myself, of the shuttle leaving Earth and going off up into space. So your task just to get going is, can you write down or just discuss one thing you know from looking at this image? So what do you know? It might be something to do with the shuttle. It might be something to do with the Earth. Maybe its color, maybe the shape of the Earth. It might be something to do with what is in the background of the picture. What do you know from this image? And have that discussion. There might be things that you might be able to guess you might know, but we're really just talking what different, without any doubt in your mind, can you take from this image? Okay, and then we're already starting to think about facts in doing that activity. And then also, what could be happening or what you might know about this image. So we're now starting to think about opinions. What do you think is happening? We don't know for sure, but what could be happening in this image? Pause the video whenever you need to, of course, Year 5. And again, have that discussion with someone nearby, just using this image as our sort of starting point this morning. Okay. Now, before we get on to truly understanding the difference between a fact and an opinion, just going to share the text that we're going to be using over the next 3 days, and it's on the screen about the planet Jupiter. So I've got the text written out on the screen. I'm going to try and zoom in as best I can in order to make it a little bit easier to read. Was that helpful? I hope so. But let's just zoom out a little bit. I think I've gone in too far. We were probably better where we were. Okay, right, Jupiter. So I'm going to read it to you. It's 3 short paragraphs. Okay, you might learn something new about Jupiter as we do this as well. So, Jupiter, fascinated by space? Then you'll really like these facts about the planet Jupiter. Although Jupiter is the 5th planet from the Sun, it is the largest in our solar system. But this description really doesn't do it justice. Amazingly, it is 778 million kilometers away from the Sun. That really is a substantial distance. Unlike Earth, Jupiter takes 4,383 days, which is equivalent to 12 Earth years of 365.25 days, to orbit the Sun. Jupiter has the shortest day of all the planets. It turns on its axis once every 9 hours and 55 minutes. The rapid rotation flattens the planet slightly, giving it an oblate shape. Jupiter was approximately named after the king of the gods. It is gargantuan, has a powerful magnetic field and more moons than any planet in the solar system. 79 have been discovered so far. Its 4 largest moons are called the Galilean satellites after the Italian astronomer Galileo Galilei, who first observed them in 1610. These large moons, named Io, Europa, Ganymede and Callisto, are all very different and distinctive worlds. It is mind-blowing to consider how diverse these moons can be when they're all orbiting the same planet. Europa is believed to be one of the likeliest places to find life elsewhere in our solar system, as evidence has been discovered that there is a vast ocean beneath Europa's icy crust. Jupiter's atmosphere is special because it is the solar system's largest planetary atmosphere. 90% of the atmosphere of Jupiter, a huge proportion, is made of hydrogen. It would be impossible for humans to breathe in this atmosphere. So if you are thinking of traveling to space to do some hands-on astronomy research, I would recommend wearing a breathing suit. It is made up of hydrogen and helium in roughly the same proportions as are found in the Sun. As a result of this, astronomers call Jupiter a failed star, but that's not really an appropriate description. While it is true that, like a star, Jupiter is rich in hydrogen and helium, Jupiter does not have nearly enough mass to trigger a fusion reaction in its core. If you could crash dozens of Jupiters together, you might have a chance to make a new star, but in the meantime, Jupiter shall remain a large gas giant with no hopes of becoming a star. Sorry, Jupiter. Okay, lots of information in there, and hopefully the screen is big enough that you can pause it and read it yourself as we come to unpick this text shortly. So let's just have a little look at it closer. So the first line of the text went a little bit like this. Fascinated by space, then you'll really like these facts about the planet Jupiter. So how does this make you feel as a reader, and what impact does it have on you? Have a discussion with someone with you. Fascinated by space, then you'll really like these facts about the planet Jupiter. So this idea is to make you think about your own understanding of space, to encourage you to read on, to hook you in straight away. Words like fascinated and space, Jupiter to catch your eye. But primarily they are designed to tell you what the text is about and to get you to then investigate further. Now, let's get to the crux of our reading this week, fact and opinion. What is a fact? Pause the video, have a discussion. Unfortunately, we live in the world of fake news and such things, so I think what a fact is becoming harder and harder to define these days. However, that is what we are going to do. What is a fact? A fact is a thing that is known or proved to be true. Something that can be proved to be true. Whereas an opinion, what do you think that might be? If we are distinguishing between the two, if we know a fact can be proved to be true, what is an opinion? Again, pause, have a discussion. What do you think? Here is the definition of opinion. Opinion is a view or judgment formed about something, not necessarily based on fact or knowledge. So a fact can be proven to be true. An opinion is basically what somebody thinks, which not necessarily based on fact. Now, making sure that we are clear that the difference between the two is very, very important. When the two get muddled, that's when problems start to occur. Okay. So tomorrow and the day after, we're going to be looking at the text in greater detail and trying to identify the facts and opinions of the text. And we're going to have a go at a few questions and challenges. Today, what I want you to do, just to get a little bit more familiar with the text, can you find any new words? And using a dictionary, so you might have one in your home, or you can go to Google and find definitions that way. Can you find the definitions of 3 words that are new, up to 3 words that are new to you? So for those at home, NEW in French stands for new exciting words. It's important to develop our vocabulary. Chili 2, can you explain what these mean using them in a sentence? So maybe you could create your own sentence with these new words. And then Chili 3 today, are there any words that you think the author could actually enhance? If you could improve the text, which words might you improve? So a way to do that would be to look at a thesaurus, so you can find some synonyms for some of these words. And again, this is a good opportunity, as I mentioned, to expand your vocabulary too, before we move on to the facts and opinions in greater detail in the next lesson. Right. Pause the video at any time and go back and forwards as you need, but now we're going to move on to cosmic. Okay, so now we're going to find out what is behind the chapter title, I Nearly Shaved Myself to Death. So I'm going to read the first few pages of this one. So here we go. Even though I could barely see the premature facial hair, once I knew it was there, I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was ticklish and it was tempting to stroke it. Stroking it made other people notice it. And when other people noticed it, they tended to shout, "Wolverine!" And worse, which is why I decided to get rid of it. I slashed at the brown candy floss with Dad's razor, which did get rid of it. Sadly, it also got rid of a lot of blood. Sheets of blood just sort of fell out my face. I wasn't quite sure what the procedure was, so I squashed a towel into my chin, prayed that I wouldn't die, and carried on squashing and praying for about an hour. I was starting to think that maybe I was already dead when Mom called me for supper. When I went down, she said, "What happened to you? You look like you've boiled your face." Dad said, "He's been shaving." "What?" said Mom. "He can't shave. He's too young to shave. He's much too young to shave." "Well, he's definitely too young to have a beard," said Dad. And he showed me how to shave in a less life-threatening manner. "The only thing is," he said, "now you've started, you'll have to carry on. The hairs will get harder and harder the more you shave them." So I don't get wisps of candy floss anymore. I get this stuff that looks like naturally occurring toilet brush. Mum said, "Liam, you've got to stop growing so fast. I'm not ready to lose my little boy yet." Mum got so worked up about all this that she took me to see the doctor. The doctor said there was nothing to worry about. That made Mum really worried. She asked to see the specialist. Specialist in what? Well, you read about these people, don't you, who grow up too fast. The hair starts falling out when they're teenagers, then they get wrinkles, and then they look like old men but they're only 20. She never mentioned these people to me before. She must have noticed my look of absolute terror, because she said, "They're very rare, but they do exist. You read about them on the internet, don't you?" I was relieved when the doctor said, "No, I don't think I have read about them, to be honest. I could send you to see a bone specialist at the children's hospital." At the hospital, they gave me scans, blood tests, and an "I've been brave" sticker. They took me to see a specialist, then a special specialist, and they both said that I was normal, completely normal, extra normal, abnormally normal, but tall. "It's just a little boy," said Mom. "He's growing up too quickly." "We all feel like that about our children, Mrs. Digby. The important thing is to remember that he is still a child, even though he looks like a grown-up. Just because he can't shop in the children's clothes section anymore, that doesn't mean his childhood is over. Boys grow at different speeds, particularly at this point in their lives. You might go back after the summer, Liam, and find that everyone's had a bit of a spurt, and you're not even the tallest in class." "Do you know, that makes sense," said Mom. "His dad was tall at primary, and now look at him. He's well below average height." "In fact," said Dad, "I'm slightly above average." "In fact, you're not." "Only very slightly, but very definitely I am above average." "We'll talk about this another day," said Mom, which is what she always says when she wants you to shut up. The special specialist was partly right about the growing spurts. Nearly everyone had one over the summer, including me. When Mom wanted to mark my height on the "See How I Grow" chart in the kitchen, she had to get a chair to reach the top of my head. "Oh," she said, "you've had a spurt." And Dad said, 7 inches is not a spurt. 7 inches is a mutation. On my very first day at Waterloo High, I was the tallest person on the lower school site. The new uniform Mom had bought at the beginning of the summer didn't fit anymore, and they had to send off for an extra large lower school blazer. I got a special dispensation to wear my own clothes for the first half term. When we went to get my travel pass for the bus to school, the woman in the office wouldn't believe I was school age, so we had to go home and get my birth certificate. And then the next morning, when I showed it to the bus driver, she wouldn't believe it was mine. And I had to get off the bus and text Mom, and she came down and explained to the driver of the next bus that I was unusually tall for my age. It's not the height, love, said the driver. It's the stubble. Mum said, am I going to have to do this every morning? Only till we all get used to him. In the end, Mum sent off for a passport for me. I kept it in my pocket in case I got questioned again. Dad said, that'll keep you out of trouble. How wrong can a person be, by the way? Find out how wrong tomorrow.